Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, hello and welcome back to Real World Magic, where we make your life more magical. My name's Neil Trigger, I'm going to be your magical host, and today we're going to start making Christmas decorations. Because yes, I officially give up. There's no point fighting it anymore. Christmas is nearly here. And although it's next month, and I know we're still in November, we are going to start preparing. That doesn't mean that we start decorating and all that sort of stuff, but it does mean that we're going to start sculpting our own Christmas decorations that can go on our tree. And of course, it's real world magic, so it's going to be magic themed. So stay with me, grab some polymer clay and sculpting tools, and let's crack on. Okay, so we start out with the pasta maker. By the way, if you're going to use it for polymer clay, don't use it for food. We get some tin foil and we bend it or squash it into a roughly ball shape and then cover it in polymer clay, and this is what you can see me doing here. I roll it around in my hands until I've got roughly a sphere shape and then just squash it a little bit so it looks more like a pumpkin kind of shape. Now I'm getting a string of clay or a snake of clay, really thin, and then doubling it up, and we'll use this technique again in a second. This bit was a little bit fiddly. Basically, you kind of want to make a star shape to make almost like the surrounding to the stalk. Now what I've got is a little bit of bacon bond, which is like a liquid clay, and here I'm just rolling out a snake of clay again, and then we've got some sculpey bacon bond, which then creates the stem itself. I'm just texturizing around the stem so that this is all going to be green, and then I use my small ball stylus to mark out where I'm going to make some indents for the eyes. You can see me drawing them out basically with tiny little dots, and then using a slightly larger ball stylus just to push it in so it looks like the pumpkin has actually been carved. I'm doing the same for both eyes and the nose, and then I start to mark out roughly where I want the grin to be. Now I started out by just doing this as dots and joining them up, and then I realised that if I use the side of my ball stylus, it's going to be a little bit quicker. Now I want to make some indents to make it look like a proper pumpkin with the segments almost, and I just use a slightly larger ball stylus just to roll that out. And then because it's squashed some of the detail, I go back in with my pin tool and just add that back in. Now I'm curling the stalk over so that I can have somewhere to put the ribbon once it's actually baked. And then I just finalise the details again with a pin tool before moving on to the next project. This one is a completely different ornament. It's going to be a broomstick. So I take a long snake of clay and a toothpick, or a bamboo skewer that's been cut short, I think this one is, and I just start to texturise it to make it look almost like wood. This is going to be redone in a second because I didn't really like the fact that it was wobbling all over the place, and in fact what I've done is to go back in and reinforce it with a bit of aluminium or aluminum wire. It's either aluminum or aluminium depending on where you are. Anyway, you grab some tin foil, you cover that in another sheet of polymer clay that I've rolled out through my pasta maker on the thickest setting to make the bristles of the broomstick. I'm now squidging it a little bit just so that I can work out how this is actually going to go together. And then eventually I just decide, you know what, I'm going to texturize this with a bamboo skewer, and that didn't work. So I then go in with a spoon tool and try to do the same. That didn't really work either. So I grabbed my pin tool, which is the sharpest thing I've got without using a scalpel, and then I started to texturize it using that. Now by this point, because my house is quite warm, certainly in the winter, my polymer clay's gone a bit too soft, which wasn't great. I grab some aluminium or aluminum wire and I start to reinforce it, and this is the point when it actually starts coming together, because now I've got something to grab hold of so that I don't get fingerprints all over this, because by this time, as I said, it was a little bit soft. So by using the pliers, I cut the wire to the shortest length that I possibly can get away with, and I just curl the end over just using the pincer action, and then just cover that wire in clay. Again, just stick that in so that it all joins together, and then I start to mould it with my hands into roughly a broomstick shape. I've got to then texturize everything all again because it was well and truly squashed, but this makes it a lot more sturdy and it shouldn't fall apart now. Certainly once it's baked, it will be absolutely fine. So grab the pin tool again, add the wood texture, and keep on going over that until it starts looking right. Now obviously I'm squishing it a little bit roughly where it's going to be tied onto the broomstick, or look like it's tied on, and the way that I do that is to get a snake of clay, quite a long one, double it up, twist it, double it up again, twist it again, and then it ends up looking like a rope. I've got far more than I need here, but that is quite important, and the reason being is that it then needs to be wrapped around the broomstick bristles, and that's exactly what you can see me doing right now. Now I did try to make a knot out of that rope as well, but it seemed far too big, and I stuck it on with bacon bond, and then I decided, you know what, I'm going to just do it as a single piece, and here it is. We've also got the pumpkin as well, which I just thought I wanted to show you. Now here's another one that I did a while ago, and the stalk isn't bent over because I decided to do a scarecrow, but I'm sure I'm going to be able to show that in a different video. Once it's all baked and cooled down completely, you grab out your paints. Now I'm going to put a link to all of the paint colours down in the description. I start out with an orange and go over the pumpkin, and I'm holding it up here using the pin tool, which I thought was quite a handy little trick. I get some Vandyke brown and go over the handle of the broomstick and just stand it up on the bristles in between. And then I just go over the bristles themselves with a mixture of red ochre and a bit of the Vandyke brown just to give it a bit of dark. The reason that I'm doing this at the moment is because I want a base coat that I'm going to be able to lighten a bit later with some dry brushing, and I'll go over that technique as I start doing it. Here I believe I'm painting the rope, again a fairly dark orangey colour, which I'll highlight a bit later. The stalk of the pumpkin gets covered in hooker's green, which always makes me laugh. After adding lots of yellow to the Vandyke brown, I highlighted the handle of the broomstick, and then I mixed up a series of inks in order to darken the pumpkin, especially with red ochre and an awful lot of water. What I did was dip the paintbrush in the paint and then successively dip it in the water, and just really watered it down to make the pumpkin quite dirty looking, which I think makes it look a lot more realistic. Okay, so here they are. They're both done. Obviously you can darken the eyes and the mouth and the nose of the pumpkin if you want, just by painting it black to begin with and then highlighting it in orange. You could even paint the wire coming out of the broomstick, but you know what? I quite like it the way it is. All you need to do now is get a little bit of ribbon, thread it through those holes, tie them up, and you've got yourself some Christmas decorations. If you wonder about the potions thing in the background, by the way, I'll make that in a future video. So that's it for another video. Click the like button if you liked it, subscribe for more of the same, and comment down below. Share it with your friends and all that sort of stuff. Thanks very much for watching again, and until next time, as always, stay magical.